Section F, Pediatric Dosages. First, let's review our rounding rules. Number 1, documenting with calculation. So we have to remember that all answers must be labeled correctly for what we are solving for. Number 2, we shouldn't round any numbers until the end of the problem unless we are converting weight. So we're going to cover weight in number 5. Alright, so basic rounding when it comes to decimals. Just remember, no trailing zeros and no naked decimals. And generally, we often round to the nearest tenths, right? With an exception, which we'll cover in a little bit. So if the digit is in the hundreds place, right? If we're trying to round, let's say, in the nearest tenths, right? If the digit is in the hundreds place and it is equal or greater than 5, then we have to round up. So example is if we have 1.57, right? So 1.57, if we have to round up, it becomes 1.6. Now, if the digit in the hundreds place is less than 5, we need to round down. So rounding down means, so here's an example. If we have 1.54, so pay attention to the 4, right? It's less than 5. Therefore, we round down to 1.5. Alright, so when it comes to liquids, as we recall, if it's greater than 1 ml of fluid, we need to round it to the tenths place. Now, if it's less than 1 ml of fluid, then we need to round it to the hundreds place. Number 5, when converting weight, remember to not round until the end of the conversion. So for example, if we're trying to convert pounds to kilograms, now we have to round the weight for adults to the nearest tenths. However, when it comes to pediatric patients, right? So round weights for pediatric patients to the nearest hundreds. Do not ever round pediatric weights to the nearest whole numbers. IV calculations, we're really not going to use this in this section, but just in case, just a reminder, they're usually calculated in either drops per minute or mLs per hour. Capsules and tablets. So capsules, they need to be rounded to the nearest whole number, and tablets, unless otherwise indicated, we assume that the tablets are scored, therefore we round them to the nearest half tablet. So if your answer comes in decimals, we need to convert it to the fraction form of it. So converting pounds to kilograms. How to convert pounds to kilogram? We do that by dividing it by 2.2. So divided by 2.2. Alright, so let's practice. Let's convert the following. 75 pounds divided by 2.2. That equals to 34.09 kilograms. How about 80 pounds? 80 pounds divided by 2.2, it's equal to 36.36 kilograms. 55.53 divided by 2.2 is equal to 25.24 kilograms. Next, we have 58 kilograms, right? So it's already in kilograms. When it's already in kilograms, we don't really do anything with it. So we have to pay attention to the unit of measurement. So this is 58 kilograms, right? We don't do anything with it. Next, 110 divided by 2.2, that equals to 50 kilograms. Alright, so pediatric dose range. So how do we calculate, or how do we find out what's the range? So we need to use a reputable drug reference in order to calculate for those safe ranges. So how do we know that it is a safe dose, right? So for example, a physician or provider orders a medication and says X amount of this medication. So it is a safe dose if the dose is within the minimum and the maximum safe dose as stated in the drug reference guide. So it should be within the range provided. So number 1, let's look at this example, right? We need to make sure we read the whole problem. Number 2, we need to determine the weight, right? So in this case, the weight is 34.09 kilograms. So there's no need for conversion because it's already in kilograms. Next, we need to determine. What are we going to determine? The minimum and the maximum. So we need to determine that range. Alright, so let's look at this specific example. Acetaminophen 10 to 15 milligrams per kilogram per dose. So that's what the reference is telling us. So how do we do that? We multiply 10 times 34.09. That equals to 340.9 milligrams per dose. So each time you're giving it, right? So that's the minimum. Next is the maximum. So using the numbers provided, 15, right, times 34.09 equals to 511.4 milligrams per dose. Alright, so let's use this as an example. So we need to figure out, does the order fall between the minimum and the maximum? That's really the only way of finding out if it's a safe dose, right? So it needs to be in between the minimum or the maximum. So it should be within those numbers. So for example, the order is to give 400 milligrams of acetaminophen, right? So 400 milligrams, does it fall in between the minimum and the maximum? Yes, it does. Therefore, it is considered safe. All right, next example, ibuprofen 5 to 10 milligrams per kilogram every 4 to 6 hours up to 40 milligrams per kilogram per day. Now, our weight, it's the same weight, 34.09 kilograms. So we're just going to use the same weight, right? And that's the safe range recommended. So minimum, we have to calculate it again. So 5 times 34.09 equals to 170.5 milligrams per dose. So 170.5 milligrams per dose. Now we have to calculate for the maximum. We use the reference guide, right? It says 10 milligrams. We multiply it by 34.09, which is equal to 340.9 milligrams per dose. So that's our maximum. Now there's some more information, so we need to pay attention. 40 milligrams per kilogram per day is the maximum for a day. So we need to calculate for that. So we get 40 milligrams times 34.09, which is equal to 1,363.6 milligrams per day. See the difference? This is per day. All right, so let's take a look at this example. So if the order is 200 milligrams, right? 200 milligrams, does it fall in between the minimum and the maximum? Also, we need to take in consideration, if we give it all throughout the day, is it safe, right? So this dose is actually safe per dose, and also it's safe per day. Next, what if they order 300 milligrams? Let's see, right? So 300 milligrams, it is not safe to give. Why is that? If you look at the number, right, 300 milligrams, so if you're gonna give it every 4 to 6 hours, 300 milligrams, right, times 6, if I give it as scheduled, right, so 6 times in a day equals to 1,800 milligrams. So if you look at the limit per day, it says that I can only give 1,363.6 milligrams per day, right? So 1,800 milligrams per day is not safe to give based on the information that was provided, right? But if you look at the 200 milligrams, right? So if you look back, 200 milligrams, right? If I give it every 4 to 6 hours, let's say I'm giving it every 4 hours, that equals to 1,200 milligrams, right? Because 200 times 6 is 1,200 milligrams per day, and that actually is less than the maximum, which is 1,363.6 milligrams per day. So that is safe. All right, let's take a look at this example, right? This is an example for dose range per day. So let's figure out our weight, which is the same weight, 34.09 kilograms. No need for conversion because it's already in kilograms. We need to calculate for the minimum, right? So the minimum safe dose for this, how do we determine? We multiply 20 times 34.09. That equals to 681.8 milligrams per day. Next, we have to calculate for the maximum. All right, so it's 45 times 34.09, which is equal to 1,534.1 milligrams per day. So that's our minimum and maximum per day, right? So minimum and maximum. Next, let's calculate the amount of drug to be administered. So how to know if it's safe? As I told you earlier, it needs to be within that range, and if safe, we need to calculate for the safe amount to give, right? So again, how do we know if it's safe? It should fall within the minimum and maximum safe range provided. And if it is safe, right, we need to calculate for the safe amount to give. And how do we determine how much to give? Well, it is the same formula that we've always used, right? Unless the order is different. But if we're given an order, right, the doctor, let's say, asks us to give a certain dose, then our previously learned formula still remains the same, right? Desired times supply over half. And again, remember the general rule when it comes to rounding, especially when it comes to liquid medications, right? If it's greater than 1 ml, we round to the nearest tenths. If less than that, then we round to the nearest hundredths. All right, so let's take a look at this application, right? So application number 1. So we have Tylenol or acetaminophen 20 ml PO every 6 hours PRN. And this is our available Tylenol 80 milligrams in 5 ml, and the weight is 66 pounds, right? The first thing we need to do is figure out the weight, right? So it comes in pounds, we need to convert it to kilograms. So 66 pounds, we divide it by 2.2, and our answer is 30 kilograms. 30 kilograms. 66 pounds is 30 kilograms. So what is the safe range for this patient per dose? All right, let's look at the range given to us. Tylenol 10 to 15 milligrams per kilograms per dose. So we take 10 times 30, which is equal to 300 milligrams per dose. So that is our minimum, right? It's per dose. 300 milligrams per dose. So that's the minimum amount. Next, 15 times 30 equals to 450 milligrams per dose. And that is our maximum. 300 milligrams minimum, maximum of 450 milligrams. So what is the ordered dose in milligrams? So as you can see, the order is in ml, right? So because it's in ml, there's a little bit of change with that formula that we're using, right? So let's use our supply. So we're given Tylenol 80 milligrams in 5 ml. So first we write 20 ml, right? Multiplied by, so look at the ml, right? So we can cancel it out. The ml should go to the bottom, right? So 5 ml. So 20 ml times 80 milligrams over 5 ml. We cancel the ml out. Then we multiply and divide. Our answer is 320 milligrams. So that's the dose that we're going to give, right? As you can see, it's the opposite, right? Because this time, the doctor ordered it in ml instead of in milligrams. All right, so is this a safe dose? Yes, it is, right? It's in between that range, right? Because it's 320 milligrams. It's in between 300 and 450. Next, application number 2. Motrin or ibuprofen 320 milligrams PO every 6 hours PRN. Available Motrin 80 milligrams in 5 ml, and our weight is 99 pounds. So first we need to convert pounds to kilograms. So 99 pounds divided by 2.2, that equals to 45 kilograms. All right, so 45 kilograms. Now it's telling us that this is the safe dose range, right? 5 to 10 milligrams per kilograms every 4 to 6 hours. So the minimum and maximum, we have to multiply 5 times the weight, which is 45, equals to 225 milligrams per dose. Next, the maximum, we get 10 times 45, then we have 450 milligrams per dose. So, is the ordered dose safe, right? That's the question. So, our ordered dose is 320 milligrams PO. right? 320 milligrams PO. So does it fall in between 225 milligrams and 450? Yes, it does, right? Therefore, this is a safe dose. So because it's safe, what will we give the patient in order to administer each dose? So we need to calculate for it. So this time around, we use the same formula, 320 milligrams, right? Times supply over half, right? Which is here. So supply is 5 ml, half is 80 milligrams. Multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, basically multiply and divide, we get 20 ml. So 20 ml is our answer. So that's how much we are going to give in order to administer 320 milligrams of Motrin or ibuprofen. Next example, so we have Tylenol with codeine 5 ml, and it comes in Tylenol 325 milligrams and codeine 30 milligrams in 12.5 ml. Right, so Tylenol with codeine means Tylenol and codeine. So it's all combined in that medication. So there's a weight given, but in this case, we don't really need it. This time, we're just trying to calculate for how much to give or how much we're giving of each of the medication in that single container. So no need to convert the weight as of now. So first, how much Tylenol will be administered, then we need to also figure out how much codeine will be administered. So let's take a look at what's available for us, right? So Tylenol, there's 325 milligrams in 12.5 ml, and codeine, there's 30 milligrams in 12.5 ml, right? And the order is to give 5 ml. So it's asking us if we're giving 5 ml, how much of each medication is in that amount of drug, right? So 5 ml times 30 milligrams, so we're trying to figure out Tylenol or acetaminophen. Oh, never mind. So 5 ml times 325 milligrams, because we're trying to figure out how much acetaminophen is in this medication or order, right? Divided by 12.5 ml, that equals to 130 milligrams. So in 5 ml, we're giving 130 milligrams of acetaminophen or Tylenol. Next, we need to figure out how much codeine is in that 5 ml. So it tells us that this is what's available, right? There's 30 milligrams in 12.5 ml. So start with the order, 5 ml, multiply by 30 milligrams over 12.5 ml. Cancel out, we multiply 5 times 30 divided by 12.5, we have 12 milligrams. So in 5 ml, there's 12 milligrams of codeine. All right, last example. We have cefotaxime 1 gram IM Q6 hours, and then our weight is 48 pounds. So 48 divided by 2.2 equals to 21.82 kilograms. And we're provided with a safe range. So as we can see here, it's for children less than 50 kilograms, which is the child that we have, right? Because the child is only 21.82 kilograms. All right, available cefotaxime 600 milligrams in 1 ml. So that's how it's supplied. So let's determine our safe range for the day, right? So first, the minimum. Minimum, we multiply 100 times the weight, 21.82, which is equal to 2,182 milligrams per day. Now the maximum, we multiply 200 times 21.82, which is equal to 4,364 milligrams per day. 2,182 milligrams per day is our minimum, and 4,364 milligrams per day is our maximum. So the next question is the order dose safe for this patient, right? So let's pay attention. Is this safe for the patient, right? The order is basically cefotaxime 1 gram Q6 hours. So let's take in consideration that that's per dose, right? So 1 gram is equal to 1,000 milligrams. And so in 1 day, there's 24 hours. So we need to take that in consideration, right? So in 24 hours, right, how many 6 hours are there? So there are 4. Now we take 4, we multiply it by the order, right, which is 1,000 milligrams. Therefore, we have 4,000 milligrams per day, right? If we give that medication as ordered, that's the amount that we're going to end up giving in 24 hours, 4,000 milligrams. So is this order safe? Based on our minimum and maximum, it is, right? Because it falls in between those two numbers. So yes, it is safe for the patient. So since it is safe, right, what will the nurse administer? Again, we get 1,000 milligrams times supply over half, 1 ml over 600 milligrams. We have 1.666 and so on. And then we round it to the nearest tenths, right? Because it's greater than 1. So we have 1.7 ml. 1.7 ml.